so. Me.
Okay.
Hey, that
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah. Okay. So we got some kind of a miracle here. Thank you.
Did you sign
Mhm.
into Zoom? Is that
I'm just putting in now the Facebook.
okay? But you signed into Zoom because that's what I
Everything's
think we're
good.
looking for. Okay, cool.
Everything's good.
All right, quieting down now.
Better late than never. Sorry for the wait. Okay.
Are we officially in the new month yet?
Okay. So now we do share screen, and we're on the way. Okay. Okay. This is where we are. Right. So here we go. So if he's fasting on Shabbat, right? Chasru Yudva brachot. He's lacking 16 brachot, as we said. Shebeshte seudot, because he's missing 2 seudot on Shabbat. V'tetva brachot shechasrim b'chol Shabbat, and also another 16 you're lacking, 15 you're lacking every Shabbat. Okay, and Harei Lamed Aleph. Altogether, you have 31 brachot you're lacking. K'shetachashav k'negdam 20 brachot. So he says when you now calculate 20 blessings, Shem Barachim Makorim Sheva Marech Maftir, that we're doing in the reading of the Torah and the Maftir. Harek Kaf Zayin, you have 27. Adayin Chasru Dain Dalid. So you're still lacking 4. Tzarich Lashliman beBrekat Tzitzit. I mean, so you have to make it up with tzitzit, putting on tzitzit, mincha, and bebrachat tzitzit b'shachar, and also tzitzit in the morning. Al talit katan on talit katan on the small talit. Brachot hareach, and also do some blessings of the fragrances. Udata omrim denim berachin ala Torah ela shte berachot the erev. So it says, but according to one who says that we don't bless on the Torah, only 2 blessings. The erev nami ena ela sium bracha. The arev, right? So the arev is only like is a completion of the bracha. Of Rishonah, the first bracha. So it says, Nachnis bimkoma birkat hamikadesh shemo berabim. We're gonna put this blessing instead of it. Vesamag ketava b'minyan brachot. So he says the Samag wrote this as one of the blessings. We don't do this blessing. We don't have a custom to do it. But anyway, right? We're gonna see Shulchan Aruch, I guess, and see what it says there in Gimel. It was just the end of the bit Yosef there. So it says in Shulchan Aruch like this: Chayav Adam levarech b'chol yom mea brachot, right? That, very simple, right? A person is obligated to do 100 blessings every day. So as we said, right, in the Bet Yosef, we figured out how to calculate all kinds of calculations about that, how to achieve that goal, right? By the way, it also implies in the Bet Yosef that women are not a part of this halacha because it doesn't even bring the women's whole situation. So therefore, it kind of implies that the women are not really a part of it. And by the way, it makes sense because, as we said, right, that for them it's just very difficult. It's almost impossible. So because of that, they're probably absolved. That's what it is. I remember when we were in Jerusalem, started a new custom in those days, which was that they were, the ladies were getting together like on Shabbat and doing a bracha party, So what's a bracha party? They were like bringing all kinds of snack foods, and making blessings on them, So they should have enough. They should have more brachot on Shabbat, whatever. But the truth is, honestly, I don't think that bracha party is going to do a job for the women. They're lacking too many. They're lacking too many blessings, so the bracha party won't really do much. But whatever, right? It is what it is. It became like a new fashion there in Israel. This whole thing, a bracha party, a party for ladies. I don't know if they're still doing it, but anyway, right? It's kind of like interesting. You see these ladies, like taking turns to make blessings. Like each one goes, okay, like a round robin. But as we said, right? It's not really going to help much. I mean, even if they get, let's say, there's 5 blessings out of the whole thing, they're still going to be lacking a lot more than that, right? Whatever. So, okay, whatever it is. But anyway, right? So I guess we'll just conclude that really this obligation is on the men more. The women will have to pull miracles to get them to fulfill this obligation. Okay, let's go on to Daled. So it says, Yosef. So as we said, right, there's also 3 more brachot, the Torah mentions. There's almost also 3 more blessings. What are we talking about? The daily blessings. Shelo asani goy, shelo asani aved. Didn't make me a goy, didn't make me an aved, didn't shelo asani isha, didn't make me a woman. Perek Tchelet, it's over there in Tchelet, right in Masechet Menachot. Upari chatam. So it objects over there. Hainu eved, hainu isha. Eved and isha, the slave and the woman, is the same thing. What does that mean? They have the same situation. Meaning to say that they have the same amount of mitzvot that they're obligated to do. So if that's the case, why do you bring both of them? I would understand one from the other. Right? So it says, Mishane Eved Zilu Tefeh. So it says, you know what it is? The Eved, the slave, is more like on a lower plateau, In other words, he's got a lower status in life, So therefore, right, this is the reason why they mentioned him. Because you may think that okay, maybe we should say one but not the other because they're not really the same. So therefore comes and tells you no, they're all the same. Because we go according to the number of mitzvot that they're obligated to do. So Rashi explains, what does that mean? How do you explain this? Hainu isha, the mitzvot isha ve'eved shavin. So it says Rashi, when it comes to mitzvot, right, the slave and the woman are equal, right? What does that mean? The gaminan la misha. We learn this 2 words which are superfluous in order to do a gezerah shala, and to extrapolate from there. Zero to fe afilu achi mezulzal ha'eved yoter min ha'isha adkan. So says Rashi, as we said, right, that nevertheless the slave is more like on a lowly stature than the woman. So therefore, it had to say both of them to make you know that they're both customary. So it says, "Umashma midvarav dehane brachot al chiyuv mitzvot." It says it implies from his words that these blessings are on the obligation of mitzvot, on the number of mitzvot that a person has. And the goy lo ditchayev b'mitzvot klal. So what does that mean? That the woman, the goy doesn't have any mitzvot, right? So what he means to say is that he doesn't have the Jewish mitzvot because he has 7 mitzvot. ואישה ועבד, ואף על פי שנתחייבו קצת מצוות, לא נתחייבו בכולן. So it's even though they're liable on some of them, they're not obligated on all of them. ויש להקדים שלא עשני עבד, שבתחילה אנו מברכים שלא עשני גוי, שאינו בר מצווה כלל. So he says, why do we say the goy? Because he has nothing, like of the Jewish mitzvot, 0. So we put him first, since he's lacking more than the others. Then we do the slave, even though he has some mitzvot, right? Zil tuba, but he's still lowly level. So he says, right, the slaves are suspected of theft. Right? They're known to be thieves, as it says in the Mishnah in Avot, Pirkei Avot, right? Marbe abadim, marbe gezel. Right? If a person has a lot of slaves, that means he's going to have a lot of theft in his house. Right? There's going to be a lot of things missing. This is missing, that is missing. Why is that? Because these slaves, they steal. That's the way it is.
I have a question.
Sure.
The slavery part.
Yeah.
In modern times, unless you're living in a fifth world country where they still enslave people, unfortunately, we've done away with slavery. So how does that apply to?
Yeah, today there is no slavery at all. I mean, Judaism doesn't exist, right?
Mm.
But we're talking about the institution of slavery, though. In other words, in theory, it does exist. It's just that nobody does it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank God. Well,
yeah,
there are corrupt places that do it, but Yeah,
I'm not going to get into politics now about this stuff, but anyway, right?
No, I mean most of the modern civilized world, at least in democratic worlds, we've done away with it.
Whatever. I mean, thank Abraham Lincoln. What can I tell you? So anyway, right? As it says, let's go on. So it says, "Begam domeh legoy." So it says also he resembles the goy more than the Jewish woman, right? Who's totally Jewish. Sheno zechut avot. So, look what he says, right? He doesn't have zechut avot. He doesn't have So what does zechut avot mean? It means the merit of the forefathers, right? In other words, when a person has a forefather who was a righteous man, so that merit protects him, So they don't have that. Okay, let's go on. So he says, and then we do the woman, right? Even though she's more prominent than the slave, but she's not obligated to do all the mitzvot. Says Rabbi David so he says the Rama, not the Rama of the Shulchan Aruch, by the way. This is a different Rama. This was before that Rama. So this Rama, this one is with a hey, that one is with an aleph. So it says Rama So he says these blessings are regarding the beginning of the creation of the man. So he says, therefore, right, a person who's a convert shouldn't bless Shelo Asani Goy because he was made a goy, right? When he was born. As long as he wasn't conceived and born as a Jew. But he says the person who's in captivity does bless that he didn't make me a slave, because he says this blessing is not on slavery itself as an institution. It's talking about the fact that you were born that way. Not that you are right now, what you are right now.
I have a question, guys. I'm sorry to interrupt before I forget. It's important for me.
Okay. All right.
Remember, you taught me that the Torah teaches us uh, to treat a woman, as a princess, with the
Sure,
utmost
sure.
respect.
Yeah.
Right, right. All right. It's not a secret. I'm not the biggest advocate of women. I think uh, the whole world knows that by now. But my question is this.
Okay.
Yeah. My question is this. Why are we, if that's what it says, and it does say that, to treat your woman, with the
Sure,
utmost respect and
sure.
so forth, why is a woman on the level of a slave?
Maybe you missed the point, right? The point was that we're talking about regarding the mitzvot.
Yeah.
They have the same number of mitzvot as the slave does.
Right, but there's also this inclination, I think, that a woman is. I think in one of the passages it even mentions that once a woman becomes your servant,
Yeah.
In the household, that's when you know that you have pride in your manhood. Isn't there a
Cool.
passage?
I don't know. This sounds more like some kind of a macho rhetoric. I don't know. It's not from the Torah, this thing. I don't know where it comes from.
I think most of the Torah is macho, if you ask me. But
Well, not that I know of. What can I tell you? Not that I know
I
of.
mean, the secular world actually sort of condemns the Bible for being, male chauvinistic and,
Yeah, but the truth is just the opposite, that the
oh,
Torah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, the people that know the true, uh, you know,
yeah.
meaning of the Bible, no, that's not really true.
I'll tell you, I speak to a lot of people who, since I do conversions and stuff,
Yeah.
I speak to a lot of ladies, and they speak to me about their past and how their life is now, and this is one of the things that they always mention to me. They say that
Mm.
when they were not Jewish, their spouses or their boyfriends, whatever, were abusing them, and now they get a lot more respect as a Jew.
It was probably multiple boyfriends, but yeah.
Well, that's not. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you understand what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I definitely get that. I get that message from ladies. They tell me that as a non-Jew, they were not really respected in relationships. It was
Well, the
not.
biblical
It was
times,
quite abusive.
yeah, the biblical times, and the Bible, the Torah, and the stories, and all of that stuff to the secular world.
You faded out there, my friend. Okay,
Yeah.
you faded out there. We didn't hear you.
No, I said that the Torah or the Bible to the secular world has a reputation for men being like the Taliban. You know.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about. They were Taliban and now they're Jewish, so they feel that they're being treated better now.
Yeah, it's misinterpretations of the Torah that cause that, David.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Yeah, that's.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything is misinterpreted in the corrupt, propagandized world. So but you have to admit that there were things that were okay 3,000 years ago that would not be okay in the modern world, and I'm assuming that that's why things were amended, because that would not be put up with.
Well, anyway, you're now getting to a different topic, but anyway, I must
Yeah.
tell you that when it comes to respect for women, the Jewish women are treated the best. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
It was always
Why
like that.
why can't you and me have 20 wives today?
You know why? Because we're too old and we don't have the energy for it.
Well, yeah, no, but I mean by Torah law,
20 wives means you have to have 20 incomes to support 20 wives. Okay. Good luck with that one. Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, men are in a way forced to pay 20 alimonies and 20 child supports, you know?
Okay, let's not get into this stuff now.
Yeah,
Let's go on.
okay.
Let's continue with Torah.
All right. I'm just trying to antagonize some of the ladies listening.
I understand. I'm sure they're too very intimidated. I'm sure they're very intimidated by your speech. Okay.
All right. Back to
They're probably shivering in their skirts. They're shivering from fright. Okay.
I think they know I'm joking.
Okay. Okay. So let's go on. Okay. So so he says, so what's the reason why the slave is, we made this blessing? Because the slave is not obligated mitzvot like a Jew. And he cannot intermarry into the Jewish people. And he's also disqualified for several things. So in other words, he has a lowly status. That's the thing, right? That's the bottom line. Okay. Very good. So, by the way, when we talk about slaves over here, we're not talking about a Jewish slave. We're talking about a non-Jewish slave, which is called Evet Kanani, right? Because there's also a concept of a Jewish slave. We're not talking about that. Just to clarify the issue there. Okay, good. So that's the story there. Let's see Shulchan Aruch.
I'm the Jewish slave. Whether it was in the lab or standing over there up against the wall all day.
Oh my God. Okay, so it says like this, right? So it says you have to bless every day. Didn't make me into a goy. Didn't make me into a slave. Didn't make me a woman. So says the Rama, the afilu ger. So says the Rama that even the ger, the convert, he can also bless that. But don't say, right, didn't make me into a goy, because you were a goy. Because he was a goy. Okay. So what do the women say? That Hashem made me like his will, right? As his will. In other words, he wanted to make me into a woman for whatever the reason was. So therefore he made me, and you bless Hashem that he made me the way Hashem wanted to make me. And by the way, our custom is to make this blessing Shasani Kiltzono without the name of God. We say just Baruch Shasani Kiltzono, without the name of God. Why? Because it's not really this blessing is not really so documented in the Talmud, So therefore, we're not really sure that it's supposed to be blessed at all. It's just a custom, basically, So therefore, the custom is to say without the name of God. If you look in your Siddur, you'll find that, right? Your local Siddur, you'll find that whole story there. Okay, good. So let's go on to Hey. וראיתי בסידור רב עמרם כיוון שבירך זוקף כפופים ואינו יודע למה דהר בגמרא בפרש על כל אחד ואחד למה נתקנה. So it says, that was language of the Torah. So it says Bet Yosef regarding that, ונראה שיש להשב שאף על פי שצריך לברך שתי ברכות אלו, צריך לברך תחילה ברכת מתיר אסורים, קדיטה, right? So, you know what he's talking about here? We mentioned in the Torah that, we have, like, as we said, right, all these blessings for the morning. So one of them is like matir asurim, which is like he frees the bound. And then we say zokef kefufim, right? He straightens the bent. So this rabbi said, Rabbi Amram, a Gaon, he said that if you say it in the wrong order, you say first zokef kefufim and then matir asurim. You cannot do. You say first zokef kefufim, and you didn't say matir asurim. You're not allowed to go back and say that. In other words, it's already been. You lost your chance to say that. That's what he says. And comes the Torah and says, I don't know why he says that. In other words, why would one preempt the other? You know what I mean? Why would one preclude the other? Just because I didn't say it in the right order, why would that preclude saying the other blessing, which I skipped over. Why can't I do it now? This is what he's asking the Torah, right? So regarding that, comes the Bet Yosef and says, so he says, we can reconcile the words of Rav Amram Gaon, right? Even though we have to make these two blessings, each one by itself, but what you have to do is first you got to do Matir Asurim. He frees the bound, right? The imprisoned, whatever you want to call it, right? Why does that have to? Why does that have to come first? So he says the reason is, like it says in Gemara, Ki taritz yativ lema matir asurim, ki zakif lema zokef kefufim. Klomar k'sheyoshev al mita. So it means like this, right? This Gemara. When a person is sitting on his bed, when he gets up in the morning, umoteach atzmotav, and he like stretches out a little bit. His arms, his bones stretches a little bit here and there. Right? Mevarech matir asurim. That's when he blesses, right? He frees the bound, as if like your body can move around. You're not bound like some kind of a right. They call it one of those guys in Bellevue, right over there. You can't move your body. Right? He's moving his bones around. Shayu kol halayla kefutim. So at night he couldn't move them. He was sleeping. So now he can move them. So therefore he's blessing on that. Because and then when he stands up, right, he blesses, right, straightens the bent. Because he was bent, in the bed, right, bent down a little bit, right, at night. His body was like bent a little bit at night in the bed. So therefore, if he blessed first, that he straightens the bent, right, so Rav Amram comes and says, then don't say that he opens the bound, right? He frees the bound. So he says, why? Because included in the fact that you get up and straighten your body includes also the fact that you move your limbs around. So therefore, you shouldn't go back and say now that he allowed you to move around. Why? Because the fact that you made already Zokef Kefufim already covered that concept. And this is the reason why he says you can't do it that way, right? The Bet Yosef here. I hope you guys understand me what I'm saying here. I did my best to describe this. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. So, this rabbi also said the same thing. So here's the thing, right? Says Rabbi that this blessing, right, Matir Asurim, that he frees the bound, is not mentioned in the Talmud, not mentioned in the Gemara. It seems like because he saw the words of Rabbi Amram, he wrote like this, Lefi Shapir Sham, Kemo Shapir Sham, because he explained like he did. Rabbeinu Tur. But it's not so. Rabbi Amram, according to Rabbi Amram Nami, according to Rabbi Amram, this blessing is mentioned in the Talmud. Right? So in other words, there's two different texts in the Gemara. There is one text that doesn't have this blessing. There is one text of the Talmud that has this blessing. So therefore, Rav David Abud Rehem says that it's not in my Talmud, right? I don't have it. So that's why, better not to say it to me, apparently, right? But since we do have it, and we have the poskim who say that we should say it, so therefore our custom is to say it. But as we said, right, that if you said it in the wrong order, you shouldn't go back and do the first one, because right, that would be like superfluous already, like redundant, the whole thing. So let's see Shulchan Aruch how he explains this. I'll try to explain to you again this thing so you understand. Maybe I don't know if you got it, but let me just try to explain that again. So it says, exactly what it says. So if he made a mistake, right, he put them out of order. First he says which is straighten the bent. Before he did Matir Asurim, which means that he opens the right? He frees the bound, right? Lo yivarachena, he shouldn't bless it again, right? As we said. So in other words, he does hold by this Rav Amram Gaon, right? That he said that you shouldn't do it if you did it in the wrong order. Don't go back there and do that. And by the way, this supports what we said already in the former classes, right? That Rav Amram, right? As we said, is called Rav Amram Gaon. So he was one of the Gaonim, So therefore, as we said, right, you don't argue with a Gaon, even if you don't understand his reasoning. Right? There's no reason to argue with him. So therefore, the Tur, who decided to argue, and say, well, I don't know why he says that. I can't figure it out. I don't have a reason for it. Okay, too bad you don't have a reason, but they had a reason. You know what I mean? So you don't have a reason, okay, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist just because you can't figure it out. So therefore, the rule is that we pass like the Gaon. Right? Why should we pass it up, right? And go with somebody who wants 500 years later after him. He was much more authoritative. So therefore, right, this is the way it is. It goes in halakha. Okay, very good. So that's the story there. Let's go on. So now, right, goes on to say, brings the continuation of the tour. And what did the tour say? Od bracha echad yesh b'sidur Ashkenaz. So he says the Ashkenazim have one more blessing in their sidur, and oten da'yef koach, right, who gives strength to the weary. So the truth is, nowadays we all say this blessing. I guess in those days it was only in the Ashkenazi sidur, but nowadays it's in every sidur. So it says, what was the reason why they gave this blessing? Because a person deposits his soul with God at night when he goes to sleep, right? And then he gets it back, and that will give him the strength, right, to not be weary and to be energetic. So it says Maran regarding this. So it says, even though there is a source, right, support to make this blessing, but it says, since it wasn't mentioned in the Talmud, I don't know, he says, how there was permission to any person to make this blessing. It says, I found that Agur writes that he saw that there was also people who are criticizing this blessing, right, that it shouldn't be done. So he says, because of this, the Rambam and the Samak and the Rokiach didn't mention this blessing, right? So then why do we do it, by the way, today? All this Friday, do we do it? So Maran says we shouldn't do it, the Bet Yosef. So as we said, right, that when it comes to prayers, we do, favor the opinions of the Kabbalah. So therefore, according to Kabbalah, we're supposed to. I'm sorry?
Arizal?
Exactly, you got it. So, right, the Arizal says we should make this blessing. So therefore, now the custom is that we do make this blessing, and that's the way it is, right? We favor in terms of prayers, right? We favor the Kabbalah over the Halacha in many cases, especially the Sfardim, and sometimes even the Ashkenazim. So therefore, right, that's the way it is. In this case, we do say it. So everybody says it, basically, right? That's about the bottom line. Okay, interesting, right? So here you see, right, that we don't go according to the Bet Yosef. As we said, right, when it comes to prayers, things are a little bit different. We favor the Kabbalah. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch, right? So it says the Shulchan Aruch, so it says some have the custom to say this blessing, one who gives strength to the weary, and it says, but it doesn't seem right to do that. Right, to say this blessing. It says in the Shulchan Aruch. So it says the Rama, but it says the Ashkenazim have a custom to say it. So there you go, right? Nowadays everybody says it. So we all became Ashkenazi, right? And when it comes to this halakha. Yeah, I'm sorry. You were saying something? I'm sorry, whatever. Okay, very good. So that's the story there. Yeah. So now we're going to Zion. So now he brings another blessing also, which is like, controversial, right? Not mentioned everywhere. Except Sidurim, says some Sidurim have this blessing. Yesh brachat acheret, she'ena nizkeret b'gemara. It's not mentioned in the Talmud. But he magbia shefalim, right? Raises up the downtrodden. Oh, nice. Katav Rabbeinu Abud Ravam, David Abud Rehem, he says, this rabbi wrote, same thing, like the same concept as, right, he straightens the bent. But lo hevanti, says the Varav, says, I don't understand the words. If that's the case, then you have two blessings on the same thing, right? What's the point? Superfluous. Right? Lama says, why do I need that? If his intention was to say, then in place of straightens the bent, that he should bless, right? He raises up the downtrodden. Says, why would you want to change one for the other, right? One is mentioned in one is mentioned in Talmud, the other one is not mentioned in Talmud. So you should favor the one which is mentioned in Talmud, obviously, right? So why would you want to switch them? What's the point of doing that? So therefore, it seems in my eyes, he says, you shouldn't make this blessing at all. And the one who breaks this blessing is mistaken, right? And by the way, we don't do this blessing, right? So in this case, right, we're all together in one boat. So it says, even though after I wrote this, I found it also in Itur. He says, right? So in other words, Itur says you should bless it. But says the Bet Yosef, I don't agree with him. Sorry. Right? I hold my line there that you shouldn't make this blessing. That's what it says also in Shibul Eket. Shirab Amram Gaon Hesir Magbia Shefarim. So there you go, right? You know what it says? Who was the one who took out this blessing from the Sidur? Rabbi Avraham Gaon, again, right? Same guy, right? The same Gaon that we had before. So he took it out, right? So if he took it out, who can bring it in, right? Nobody can bring it in. That's it, right? We're done with that. Okay, that's the story. Katuv Beitur says in Itur, Amvarech Somech Nofelim, right? Ta'utu. If you make this blessing, right, the one who supports the fallen ones, it's a mistake. Katav Agur, says the Agur, Raiti Besidur Taliani Catalani Usadim Arbe Brachot Shelo Yizkuru Begemara. So he says also, I found, like he says, in these Sidurim, right? Italiani probably is Italian, like Italian Sidurim, and also Catalani, right, which is Cataluna, from Spain. That it's like a sect of Spaniards. They call them Cataluna. Saradim, right? Also Saradim, Spaniards, the Spanish Sidurim. They have a lot of blessings over there, no Sidurim, which were not mentioned in the Talmud, mentioned over there. Right? And they're not in the poskim. They have no source. So therefore, in other words, erase all those blessings, right? If you have them in your Sidur, erase them. don't say those blessings, because there's no support for them. That's the idea, right? Even though we do find them in these old ancient prayer books. Today, by the way, you won't find this unless you find something very antiquated. These blessings probably don't exist anywhere. Never saw them before in my life. Okay, so that's the story over there. Let's go to Shulchan Aruch.
I believe they left Barcelona in the 1300s, very early.
Yeah. Therefore, what?
That's why that's why they don't use those blessings anymore.
Okay, well, what he's trying to say is basically, right, that since they have no source, you should take them out, whatever. Okay, whatever. Anyway, right, so he says over here, right, as we said, it says in Shulchan Aruch, same thing. There are some of the customs say that they different blessings, right? Nosafot al elu, additional to the ones that we mentioned, but ta'utu bi'adam, so it's a mistake, right? So even Maran, who was born in Spain, by the way, right? He also says, right, that there are mistakes. Take them out. What can you do, right? You gotta. you see from there, it wasn't in all of them, it was in some of them, you understand? So those some that had that, right, have to be erased. They have to be erased. Okay. Very good. כל הברכות שהם על סידור העולם מנהגותיו, אין לחסר מהם אפילו לא שמע כל תרנגול או לא הלך על הרד. So says the Torah, right? Again, the same thing that, not the same thing, but we already mentioned before, but I'll repeat that again. We said a couple of days ago. That says the Torah, right? That all these blessings were made on the way of the world, the way the world functions, you know? So therefore, you shouldn't lack any one of them just because you personally didn't experience that day some kind of event, you know, that corresponds to that blessing. Doesn't make any difference. You didn't put on your shoes, you know, you didn't get out of bed, right? Let's say you didn't walk on the floor, right? All these kinds of things. You didn't do these things. You know, you were right. You decided to have breakfast in bed that day, right? You didn't get out, so you stayed in bed all day, right? It doesn't make any difference what you did. You still have to make all these blessings, even though it's not pertinent to you that particular day. That's what he's trying to say. But he says when it comes to things which are, you know, that we say because of benefits that we get or pleasure, so then you can only make those blessings when you get that benefit, right? So that's something else. That's what it says in Tosfot. It says Maram Bet Yosef. Be'arosh and the Rosh, Besop Peh Karoeh, also over there. Even if you didn't hear the rooster that morning, right? That he said, cock-a-doodle-doo, you know? You didn't hear the cock-a-doodle-doo. Okay, so what? You still have to bless that blessing, right? יכול לברך הנותן לשכלי בינה, אלא ההודעה למקום שנתן לנו בינה, הוא ברא לנו את צרכינו, אף אם ישן אדם בבית אפל יבחין ביאת היום, על ידי כל התרנגול. So, what is he saying here? 1 second. Right. Right. So, in other words, he's trying to tell you, right? It's not because you heard the rooster or not. That's not the issue. The issue is that we're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're thanking Hashem, that what? That this wisdom was given to people to discern between the day and night, and to the rooster, right? Whatever you want to say. Why is that? Because that helps us to function in our lives. So what does that mean? Even if a person is sleeping in a dark room and doesn't see, right, the sun coming up and all kinds of, you know, the dawn, right? So you can still know that it's day because of the rooster. So in other words, we're praising Hashem because of this quality that we have in the world, not because you particularly heard it or not. Right? In New York City, we don't hear many roosters, right? You know that, right? Not too much over here. Even though we have some neighbors over here that do actually have chickens in this area. There are 1 or 2 places that I've seen. Anyway, right? So the point is, right, that we don't hear that too much, but nevertheless, right, since it exists in the world, this concept. Today we have alarm clocks. We have something better, right? So maybe we're also blessing on the alarm clocks when we bless this blessing. I'm not sure about that. We have to investigate that a little bit. But right, if it also goes on the alarm clocks. But anyway, right, as we said, that's the way it works. All right. Says the Rosh further on, right? It says Kol Hanach Berachot. Says all these blessings, Shem Lehanato, that are for his benefit, beneficial, right? Kimo Malbish Aroim, like for instance, he dresses the naked, right? Israel, and he crowns Israel, right? With the Shasali Koltzok, he made me with all my needs. If you didn't benefit from those things, because he's on his bed, Arum, right, naked all day, whatever, right? He doesn't bless them, these blessings, according to the Rosh. How can I know? But it says it implies to the Rabbeinu, to the Torah, that Birkat this blessing of spreading Milano over the waters, and also the one that says he prepares the footsteps of man. That these are on the world events, right? Not on the personal benefit. Like the one that talks about the rooster. So says the Kolbo, now the custom, has spread in those lands, right, that they live in. They do say it anyway. Allah said there, right? In other words, they say everyone. No matter what you did that day, what you didn't do, doesn't make any difference. So that's the way Rav Netonai told people to do. He was also one of the Geonim. Rav Amram, also Rav Amram. These are two Geonim. The Shar Geonim and also the other Geonim as well. So all the Geonim told us, right? Say all the blessings, right? Don't be a wise guy, right? Don't come up now with all kinds of novel ideas in your head. Say each one and finish with it, right? That's it. Okay. The Shar Geonim. So that even though he didn't do nothing, he's not blessing on himself only. He's blessing on the whole world. That because Hashem did us all good things in life, these good things, these kind deeds, to everybody. That's the end of it. So it says, implies from his words that even blessings which are for his pleasures, for his benefit, right? It does bless, even though he's not obligated with them in terms of his deeds. So he says the Rambam complained about this. Regarding the custom that he mentions over there in laws of prayers, says the people now have custom in most of our town to make these blessings one after the other, right? Whether they're obligated or not. The Ta'utu says this is a mistake, so Rambam is against it, right? He says no. If you're not obligated to say that blessing on your personal experience, you shouldn't make that blessing. He complains about it. It's not proper to do that. It says, so you should only make the blessing you're actually obligated to do that blessing that day. But Ta'utu, okay, yeah. Right? When he read, so it says Bet Yosef that the Rambam wants to say it says this custom is a mistake. What they do, they go to shul, they say all the blessings, right? From two sides, it's a mistake. One is because it's not proper to do so. To make these blessings since the time is already passed, right? Once he goes to the shul, it's already too late. Apparently, whatever that means, right? We'll see what that means. Right? What he means to say is like this, right? That he has to make it during the time that he experiences that experience. And otherwise, it's too late already. Once you go to shul, that experience already left you. Right? That's what he means to say. Yeah. So that rather, he says, you should make each blessing according to the experience at that time you had the experience. Hashani, right? Hashani, also, the second reason why they're blessing them whether they're obligated or not. Right? You shouldn't make any of these blessings, even though if he wasn't obligated to do so. Right? This is I already wrote above. Why do we bless these blessings? He says, I already wrote the reason why we do these blessings after we already did the deeds. The Hagaot Maimoni Katav says, Hagaot Maimoni says, Katuv Hegzain, B'Shem HaTosfot, name Tosfot, Shafiru Lo Shama Kol Tanagol, even if he didn't hear the chicken or the rooster, you do bless, Shena Bracha Ela Ala Aura, Shatanagol Mavchin, because it's only, the blessing is only regarding the light that the chicken, the rooster is able to discern about that light. And he does benefit from that light. It doesn't say if he heard the rooster, then he should say it. It's just coming to exclude where that when there is no chicken, right? Not to him, not to anybody else. Alternatively, says the is coming to exclude a deaf person who's deaf, right? They can't hear the chicken, they can't hear the rooster. And also the blind person should not bless, right? He opens the eyes of the blind, right? Because he's blind, right? Since it's lacking in his body, that's what he says. So what do we see over here, right? We have like a smorgasbord over here of opinions, you know? Some say like that, some say like this, some say you should bless, some say you shouldn't bless, right? So bottom line, right? What do we do? We'll see, right? We'll get to that in a second. So he says, says the Ran, these blessings that we bless in the morning, Bet Knesset in the shul, brachot Hashem. These are praises to Hashem. They're not really for pleasure or for benefit. I mean, on the custom of the world, right? On the way the world functions. And if you didn't hear the Brewster, we still bless on that blessing. And also all of them, right? So it says the custom of the Jews is Torah. So what does that mean? Now, since the custom is that way, right? So it can't be that all the Jews are wrong. So we say that's Torah. Right? That's also the Ramban says. But the Rambam, as we already mentioned, Rambam was against that, right? He says the Rambam that any blessings that you're not obligated to do, you don't bless that. And that which they do, these blessings, right? The custom is to do them. One after the other, in the shul, right? Whether they're obligated or not. So it's a mistake, he says, that what they do. So the Rambam is against it, right? Bottom line. Right? That's what this is the end of the language of the Quran. So says Maran like this in Bet Yosef, right? Since there's a machloket about this, we're not really sure what's the halacha. So he says, therefore, you should only bless the blessing if you actually experience that deed, right? That day, whatever, that encounter, right? Whatever it was. So it says proper to say that without the name of God. This way you can do it, right? Because you won't have a blessing in vain if you don't mention the name of God. So right, so as we mentioned, so now the custom. By the way, nowadays the custom is not like this. The custom is that we do say all the blessings, and this is also according to Kabbalah. That the Arizal also says this, right? That we should make all these blessings. So therefore, the custom nowadays is to make all of them, whether you did experience, whether you didn't experience, whatever it was, you did benefit, you didn't benefit. Right? We do them anyway. It doesn't make any difference. That's the way it is today. Okay.
Rabbi,
Yes.
Are they drawing? They're drawing a distinction between like somebody who didn't put on his shoes today versus somebody who's never going to be able to say, thank God I'm not a woman, or thank God I'm not a goy. Because it seems to me that if they're saying, well, you say these things because it's on behalf of the whole world, well, then why can't the woman say, or why can't the convert say, thank you, God, for not making me a goy?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So you know what the answer is? The proof is in the pudding, as they say. What does that mean? Look at the blessing, right? It says, he didn't make me a goy. So you're talking about yourself over there. You know what I mean? Not talking about the whole world.
But when you say,
yeah, it's also true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Then that's the whole world, not just me.
Right.
Okay.
But you know what it is? That you can't. Yeah. Okay. I got the point. It's a good comment. But here's the thing, right? Let's try to get into this a little bit to understand the depths of it a little bit. So, right, as we said, right, when it comes to the blessing, the Shasadi called Tzorki, for instance, right? He made me with all my needs. So that goes according to the function of the world, right? As you said. So why can't we say that about also the goy, right? He didn't make me into a goy, because most of the world is goyim, you know what I mean? So we cannot really say that's a function of the world. You know what I mean? It's not really relevant. The most of the world is goyim, so you can't say, well, I'm talking about the whole world. What do you mean the whole world? The whole world is goyim. You know what I mean? So that's probably I'm telling you a quick answer, right? The point of what comes into my head right now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay, I'm glad you like it. Okay, if you didn't like it, I would try another one maybe. Okay, next time.
Well, I mean, if you have another one.
Don't corner me now. As it is, I'm in the corner. As you see, I'm sitting in the corner over here. You know what they say, right? Don't corner the cat.
It's still a great view.
Okay. All right, great. So, but I think that's pretty much, that answer is pretty relevant.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, God bless. So anyway, right, let's see Shulchan Aruch, and we'll probably finish it off with that. We started late and we finished late. Right, one lateness deserves another. Okay, one good lateness deserves another. So it says Shulchan Aruch like this, right? Kol habrachot ha'elu im lo nitchayev be'echad mehem. So it says, right, all these blessings, even though he's not, if he wasn't obligated to do them, he didn't encounter those things that day. For instance, he didn't hear the rooster, right? Or he didn't walk that day, right? He stayed in bed. Oh, lo lavash, or he didn't get dressed. Oh, lo chagar, or didn't put on a belt, right? All these things. Omer ota bracha belo askat Hashem. So what he does, he says that blessing without the name of God, right? As we said, the custom nowadays is not like that, right? So here again, right, we see that in prayers many times we don't go like the Shulchan Aruch, we go like the Kabbalah. So says the Rama, right? So the Rama brings the other opinion, right? Some say that even if you're not obligated to do them, you didn't do them, you still have to bless on them. Then bracha. Why? Because the blessing is not really on you personally. It means that we're blessed that Hashem created the needs of the world. That's the custom. Okay, so in other words, the Ramah says the custom is to bless all of them. And that's the universal custom today, right? For everybody. The says you shouldn't change that, right? That's the idea. Okay, so interesting, right? That by the way, I just want to mention one more thing about that question you asked. All right, regarding the goy issue, right? Shelo asani goy. So you know what it is, right? The truth is that there are some who say, there are some poskim who say that a ger should say that blessing. You know what I mean?
I have heard that they were Ashkenazi.
Yeah, there is a machloket about that. And why do I mention this? Because maybe they hold like your question. In other words, if you're going to tell me that the whole thing is on the whole world, so then why don't we also say that regarding the ger? But you know what it is? It's probably not exactly like that.
It's not exactly like that. From what I learned, there was a certain rabbi who I think it was Avadia the convert, I guess, had asked a rabbi, like, should I say this blessing? And
Right.
He was told yes, because your former life no longer exists.
Right. So in other words, the whole question hinges on this, that do we go according to what you were like born physically, or like, in other words, not what you are now? So the truth is, I'll finish with this. I'll give you an interesting Kabbalistic lesson here. Right. It says in the Zohar Kadosh, and also in the Mefarshim there, the commentaries that are there, that really, right, the soul of a convert comes from a Jewish soul originally. It's not a goy. It's not a soul of a goy. So what does that mean? He has a soul of a Jew, but for some reason he lost contact with the Jewish world. In his last lifetime, he fell out of the fold. He lost he left the fold somehow. Whatever it was, right? So now, when he comes back in a reincarnation, his whole desire is to come back to that fold because he feels that he's Jewish. So it's like this deja vu. Like he knows that he's a Jew. Every convert will tell you that, right? Every normal convert. I'm not talking about the fake converts, right? That's something else. We're not talking about that. That's called Erva. That's a different story. But the real converts, right, which is called Ger Tzedek, will tell you, right, I always felt like a Jew my whole life. Yeah, you did. Yeah, because probably you were. That's the whole thing, right? But you needed a conversion because in your last lifetime, you fell out. Something fell out there, So the truth is, according to the Kabbalah, the truth is, that these people who convert, they really were created as Jews. They were not created a goy, So that's why you can say that maybe we should say that blessing, But according to the simple meaning, that he wasn't born a Jew, so therefore, because of the doubt, it's not really so clear to rely on that, So therefore, that's why we don't say it.
But does it say wasn't born a Jew or didn't make me a Jew? I mean, sorry.
Right, so it says Asani, right? So it means it make me, right? That's what it says.
But Hashem did make us a Jew. We just had to convert to do it.
Right, but there's different ways to look at it, as we said, right? There's different ways of different aspects of that. So,
David, don't you even get in on this one. I see that coming off mute.
No, he's not against converts. He's just against women. Don't worry.
Okay, that's fine.
How did you wait a second? do you guys see when I'm about to speak, or how?
Yes.
How?
With these big lights come out and we see like, David's coming, look out. Warning, warning.
No.
By the way, David.
No, because I was about to say something, but
I know.
is
you
there an
came off mute.
indication on the phone? Or
You came off mute, David.
By the way, David, why don't you show your picture?
I don't know. I shaved my head a week
Oh my
ago.
God.
And, yeah.
I'm gonna meet you, David.
All right. Okay, so
I
very
look-
good. So I guess we'll stop there, guys.
Well, I had a question actually.
Yeah.
And she, what if you have 1 foot here and 1 foot there? You remember many years ago you told me you better shape up because you have 1 foot here, 1 foot there.
Okay, so what's the question?
What if you have doubts about the whole thing, like who you
Well,
are,
I mean,
why you're
this
here?
is yeah. Okay, so what's the question? If you have doubts, the only thing that overcomes the doubt, you know what it is? It's to study more Torah.
Right.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
That's why you're with us.
Mm.
You know what it is? The light takes away the darkness. The light is the Torah.
Right.
The darkness is the doubts. The only way to take away darkness is to bring light.
Yeah.
We should
Okay,
agree
guys.
with that.
Chazak u'baruch, Laila tov. God bless you. Be blessed with the wealth, health, happiness. I'm sorry about the delay today. It wasn't intentional, obviously. Right? Whatever.
All good.
Good night, guys.
It was Zoom's
Bye-bye.
fault. Complain to Zoom.
Yeah,
It was the
we're gonna
women.
call
It was the women's fault. It's
Okay.
everything is their fault.
All right, I got it.
I'm kidding.
Okay, Laila tov. All the best. Chazak u'baruch. God bless.
Bye, guys.